If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law of Life provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law of Life with Gary C. Johnson and Keith Casebolt.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply the Law of Life, our program that Gary C. Johnson has created. We renamed it, by the way, and I really like the new name.
Me too. How you guys and gals doing? We're all treating you okay? No fighting, no criticizing, condemning, or complaining, right? You're doing good. I had sat down yesterday to do a big old program and put it together. I was getting into it, and it wasn't going anywhere. And we've been talking so much about this inner voice and the things about how big the universe is and how we're all connected and things like that. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get the program to do, in my mind, the way it should be. And then I wandered back into my office, and I just looked, and suddenly I looked over and I saw these books. Those two books, remember, that we had to read before because Keith brought them and dumped them on me, and I had to read them and so I could share them with you. And I looked at them and I realized I couldn't do the program because there were still things in these books that I needed to share with you. So I said, today, our program will be from either one or two of these books, depending on how far we get. Because it's really good, in my opinion, stuff that's in these books. I think there was a reason that made Keith bring them to me. And I think there's a reason that I could not do a program no matter what I tried to do and no matter how hard I put my brain to it. Because those two books were laying in there needing to have what was in them shared with you. Now, have I gone crazy, folks?
No, you haven't. And besides, the last time you asked that question, one of our friends said, you guys may have gone crazy, but it seems to be working and you seem to be happy, so be it. But Gary, since you've talked about this inner voice, I've noticed on the news and in the news how many times it has been related, whether it was someone who did something amazing or somebody that even committed a crime that said, I was dealing with this voice that was telling me. And then I heard interviews with stars who were seeking counseling or therapy, and they were saying the problem was this voice was telling me I wasn't worthy. And since you've opened up this Pandora's box about the inner voice, seems like I hear it and see it everywhere.
I'm convinced in my mind, totally, in my mind, which I may be wrong. Over life, I frequently have been, that there's actually two voices in our head. One is a liar. One is Mr. Negativity. One will cause you to kill yourself or somebody else. One will make you feel unworthy. One will make you hesitate when you should be going forward. One will make you miserable when you should be happy. The other one will lift you to levels beyond your wildest imagination. It will open up literally a universe to you. And there's a lot of things been written on it, and I'm not sure I disagree, that other voice is really the voice of God talking to you and giving you the inspiration and the things you need. The question is how do we deal with promoting that good, pure inner voice that is going to take care of us and deal with at the same time that one that's going to take us down, the liar. One of the techniques we used, and I found that it works, is to talk to the liar and try to reason with it.
So in other words, you're saying you're never going to get rid of the other voice. It's not going to leave, it's going to be there. You can't tell it to shut up or go away. You're saying you're going to have to create some kind of plan to deal with it and try to befriend it.
Just a simple technique of calling it your name and say, Gary, let's talk about this. Are you sure that I'm not worthy? Are you sure that I'm going to fail? Tell me why I'm going to fail. Just talk to it, just like it's a separate entity. Because it may be. And again, I've not gone crazy, folks. I'm just sort of calling it like an awakening in my life as to the things that make a difference. Depression, I'm convinced, comes from that false voice, that liar, the one that preaches gloom and doom every second. Some of you right now that are watching this program, you're feeling bad, you're despondent, huh? You're not in a good mood, And it's all because of that voice that's lying to you in your head. Talk to it. Tell it, say, look, you're there, I have to live with you, but let's reason this out. I'm here, I've got a roof over my head, I'm getting to watch television, may have a little snack here. Things aren't that bad.
But Gary, let's talk a little bit about how this voice does. The gentleman, his name escapes me, you'll know it, he owns Tesla and the rocket ships. He's a multi-billionaire.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Musk, he came out a year ago and said that it was the worst year of his life, that he had dealt with severe depression. Now, this is a guy that's sending rockets into outer space, has the Tesla automobile. He's worth billions of dollars, but he was depressed. It had to be because of this voice that you're talking about.
I'm convinced, like I say, so please listen up. If it helps you, use it. If it doesn't, say, well, I'm crazy guy, I'm not going to pay attention to him. It's okay. Okay? It's okay to disagree with everything I'm saying. That's it. But if it applies to you, and if it will help you just a little bit, and I know there are some of you that are listening that it will, simply because I'm convinced now that the things that I say on this program come to my head as I say them, and that it's meant for some of you that may be out there that needs it. So, my friends, without further ado, I'm going to go to this book, the one that I did some reading for. See, there, Keith Caseboat dropped these off. I talked a little bit about intuition last time. I didn't read it through, and and you know how I find what I'm going to read to you? I'm going to show you.
You pick it up and you just open the book.
And then when I'm done with that one and I want to do another one, I say, okay.
And lo and behold, it falls on the page that you want.
I'll leave it to my inner voice or whatever to pick the page for me. And usually it's dead on. Now, what do I mean by that? Listen to this. First thing it did was took me back to intuition, because I hadn't covered it very well last time. Let me see what this guy says. This lady says about intuition. Through intuition, we begin to catch signs of the magnificent arrangement of creation. We have the opportunity to acknowledge the unseen world and sense its impact on our lives. Through the seeming chaos of the material world, we begin to see spots of undeniable coordination and harmony. Intuition, that clear inner knowing that comes without the intellectual effort of gathering the clues, leads us deeper into the uncharted world of reality. Getting intuitive glimpses into life's order is life seeing patches of light falling through the forest to the forest floor. We know that a sun-filled sky exists above the forest. We see patches of the reality of the sun dappling through the trees. Similarly, through the seeming chaos of the material world, through intuition, we begin to see spots of the undeniable coordination and harmony that exists in our world. Living intuitively leads us to the celebration of the order in life. An insatiable wonder begins as we realize that even without the arduous task of gathering endless information, all can be known. At first, each time we have an intuitive experience, we treasure it in our memory. We think something important just happened. Something really important just happened. But I am not sure what it means. Without having painstakingly gathered the evidence, how were we able to know? Our curiosity is piqued. We sense that there must be an unseen order that we have momentarily assessed. Now, how many of you have had that feeling in your life?
I'm just sitting here right now thinking, how many times in life have you said, I don't need to go down this road? Mm-hmm. There is something at the end of that road that's going to be bad for me.
Or there's something wrong with this situation. There's something out of kilter here. I don't know why, but there's something wrong. Everybody, right? All of you have. So they wanted me to read to you about intuition. Now here's the next thing that my little inner voice wanted me to read you about. And it's talking about the voice. Once a voice has been heard and acknowledged as an important aspect of your consciousness, you return again and again to the source of this wisdom within. It brings such peace to your life that you long for more of the upliftment it provides. Eventually, you come to rely on this voice within as a guide by which you live your life. Then he quotes here, let a man return into his own self, and there in the center of his soul, let him wait upon God, as one who listens to another speaking from high above, tower as though he had God in his heart, as though in the whole of creation there is only God and his soul. That's St. Peter. Okay? Now,
so you're saying this, the good voice, the voice that helps you, that once you get in tune to it, it's like your guardian angel.
It opens up a universe for you. But it talks about the inner voice some more. We each carry on an internal monologue. You guys don't ever talk to yourself, do you? Huh? You don't ever hear yourself, that voice in your head, right? You don't have that problem. Right?
I think my problem is I've been answering myself, not only talking to myself.
So this is what it says. We each carry on an internal monologue, and for many people, the inner voice occurs as part of that monologue or in the same tones as their monologue. For other people and for the same people at other times, the inner voice comes as a deeper inner knowing or a feeling of truth. Although some hear the inner voice so profoundly as to think it audible, it is not the voice of a strange person in your head or the voice of your frantic self or your urgent self. It is, however, a peaceful knowing expression in the inner language that we normally speak. It is not the voice of Charlton Heston parting the Red Sea that you would hear, but it is the voice that you are familiar with speaking to you with authority. It is amazing grace, how sweet the sound. That's that inner voice when it's talking to you, okay? The inner voice is universal. Everyone has one. Each and every one of you has an inner voice. No question about it, okay? Many persons have written about first hearing their inner voice the first time. Some first experiences have come in times of great crisis. Some have come from conscious attempts to seek inner guidance for the first time. And that's just the way it is. You got to seek it. You got to reach out to it. You got to ask it questions. You've got to come in harmony. And when you ask it a question, you have to listen to the answer. And you may not like it, but you got to listen to it. Okay?
You know, what I like about this is when you said we've all got the inner voice. You're right, we do. But what I've realized now is we've all taken this for granted. We've never named it. We've never acknowledged it. We're just driving down the road with this conversation going on in our head. And if it's a good one, great. If it's a bad one, it's a bad one. We never knew that we had choices.
We let the false, lying voice take over. And that's what we've done. And we've failed to seek out that inner voice of us, the voice that really and truly is in harmony with God. Then that's the voice that, my friends, I want you to cultivate, okay? That good voice, that voice that says, it's okay. You are worthy, okay?
Yeah. You know, I was talking with you the other day, and just profoundly, you said, everything's going to be okay. You just used that term. And I said, it is. And you said, yeah, one way or the other, everything's going to be okay.
Now, here's what they say about this. Look at it from God's point of view. Do you want to and like to speak to your own children? God, whose Scripture tells us that He made us in His image and likeness, has usually been likened to a parent. What parent does not want to speak to his or her children? Do you want to speak to your children only when they've been good and not when they've been bad? All parents have had the experience of wanting and needing to love their children at precisely the point when the children are the baddest and the neediest of their parents' love. Think about that, huh? Why should God be any different? A component of your feeling of worthiness to hear the voice of God is God's own desire to communicate with you. In one of his conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh records God as saying, this was a fellow that wrote my conversation, this is what he said. Pretty neat. I'm going to read it to you because somebody out there needs to hear it because I was made to come back to this book, okay? And this is as though God is speaking in here. This is the root of every problem you experience in your life for you. Do not consider yourself worthy enough to be spoken to by God. Good heavens, how can you ever expect to hear my voice if you don't imagine yourself to be deserving enough to even be spoken to? I tell you this, I am performing a miracle right now. For not only am I speaking to you, but to every person who has picked up this book and reading these words. To each of them am I now speaking. I know who every one of them is. I know who will find their way to find these words, and I know that just as with all my other communications, some will be able to hear and some will be able to only to listen, but will hear nothing.
Wow.
Now, isn't that profound?
Well, it is profound because now, we're going to sit here and think, okay, there were great people, like you said, Charlton Heston playing the part of Moses, who heard the words of the Lord. You're saying this inner voice, the good voice, that if we will listen, we are being communicated to by the Creator.
Well, think about it this way. And I tried to think it through. How else would God be able to keep up with all of us?
Good point. Yeah.
If he wasn't inside of us, how could he keep up with us? He couldn't. How could he know what we're doing if he wasn't with us at all times?
So there's your guardian angel, there's your inner voice.
That's that little guardian angel.
Yeah.
That's the one, that's your intuition, that's your hunches. That's the thing that's keeping you out of trouble. That's the thing, that inner voice that will make you just have utter joy and happiness in life. But in the same sense, God has to deal with that negative, that false voice in your head that is trying to make you feel unworthy, to take you down, Mr. Negativity.
And that's where the big problem comes, because when you turn over to the negative voice, you're shutting out the good one. That's the one that's trying to help you, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Last one I'm going to read to you from this book is this. And it's the voice of love, not fear. And suddenly a great tempest arose in the sea, so that the boat was covered with waves. Then his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. But he said to them, Why are you fearful, O you of little faith? Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Matthew 8:24-26. Okay? The voice of fear. Only when we step away from fear can we possibly hear the inner voice. Only when you step away from fear can you ever hear the inner voice. Okay? One more thing I'm going to read to you about this. In Robert Way Clary's The Still Small Voice, God says, it is very important that you learn to distinguish between my still small voice and the voice of the negative force, the force of darkness. Talked about that, right? The negative voice can come to you from any source in the outer world or from the darkness of your own soul if you let it. Its attributes are the opposite in every respect to those of my voice. The negative voice will always appear to your lower nature and to the satisfaction or fulfillment of personal or selfish motives, desires, or needs. By the voice of darkness, we mean a negative message in your inner monologue, a voice that creates a fear or agitation, a voice that encourages us to be selfish or unkind. The inner voice is always a voice of love, not fear. Now, I had to read that to you because I didn't have any choice, okay?
And you know what? Listen, that is so strong because my friend Gary helped me immensely when he said, anytime you hear the negative voice for this week, why don't you do me a favor and write down what it says? Not just hear it, but write it down. I actually wrote them down, and we've talked about this on an earlier program. But Gary, when I put that down on paper, those negative thoughts, you looked at me and said, you wouldn't say these things to your worst enemy. I mean, there's not a person walking on this planet that I would have said those things to, but here was this negative inner voice saying all of these bad things to me, and I wasn't doing anything about it. I wasn't trying to negotiate. I wasn't saying this is not true. I was curled up and just taking it. Why would we do that?
Well, my friends, those of you that are listening, truly listening, you're not going to do that anymore. You're going to find that good, calm inner voice. You're going to reason with, talk to, whatever you have to the darkness, the negative, the one that appears to all those selfish, mean, nasty motives, okay? Let's go to the computer. I need to cover just one thing with you, okay? There's our number if you need to call us. Again, our Lexington office and GaryCJohnson.com. This is what I need to cover with you. Motorcycles. Insurance agents will not put personal injury protection on your motorcycle insurance unless you demand it. Now, they're required to do it on your car unless you reject it, which would be foolish if you do, but on your motorcycles. And it's summer's coming, warm weather's here, you're getting ready to crank up the old motorcycle, and you're getting ready to hit the road. If ever anybody needs to make sure they have their no-fault personal injury protection for $10,000, it's on that motorcycle. And remember, your insurance agent will not put it on your policy unless you ask for it.
Listen, this is so important. Just last week, just 5 or 6 days ago, I saw an accident involving a car and a motorcycle. The vehicle had pulled out in front of the motorcycle, and I was explaining to my wife, this is something that you taught me. You don't look for motorcycles. You expect to see a car, you expect to see a truck, you come to a red light or you come to a stop sign or an intersection, and you look, and your brain is not programmed to look for that motorcycle. You just don't see it.
I did a program one time on you see what you expect to see. Our eyes can never process all the stuff that's coming into it. It has to do the vast majority of it from memory. Now, everything you've ever seen in life is laid down as a memory in your mind, so it can draw upon it for you to be able to see. Bet y'all didn't know that, huh? Most of your seeing is from memory. How many of you have driven home to an area and never ever really remember doing it. You were on automatic. Okay? That's what happens. You're on automatic. You pull up to a stop sign. You look automatically to see if a car is coming. No car is coming. You pull out and you destroy a motorcycle.
So, Gary, the old saying when people have said, oh, I could drive that road with my eyes closed.
You can.
They actually are more or less driving with their eyes closed, and that's why they don't see the motorcycle.
And I read that when they first went into the Caribbean islands, on one of those islands, that when the ships came up on the horizon, that literally the natives could not see the ship until somebody took the time to make them look to point it out. Because when they would look out over the ocean, all they'd see was the ocean, even though the ship was there.
But they had never seen a ship before.
They'd never seen a ship before.
So therefore it didn't register.
Their brain didn't register it.
And yet, back to the PIP real quickly. Any motorcycle accident that happens, be it ever so small, there's going to be injuries.
Oh, there ain't no question who's going to get injured. There ain't no seatbelt. A lot of times there's no helmet, which, by the way, is pretty foolish if you're not wearing a helmet, but that's your choice. You're free not to wear a helmet, right? You're in that wreck.
Yeah.
You'd be wishing you weren't so free.
Yeah, you were reading about we need to get rid of fear. One time we need fear. If you're on a motorcycle, you need a helmet.
Well,
be fearful of that.
Just make sure your insurance policy is identical to your car's policy, your motorcycle. Okay? Make sure it has the personal injury protection, because if you're on a motorcycle, even if it's minor, you're going to need that $10,000 real bad. And if you haven't put it on your policy and asked for it, you won't have it. That's why I wanted to cover it.
Great information and a good lesson. Hopefully this week, when the inner voice is talking to you, it's going to be the good inner voice that's encouraging you and telling you that you're worthy. My friend, thank you for the program.
Didn't have any choice.
On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. Thank you so much for tuning in to Simply the Law of Life. As always, Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at this same time.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.
If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
I'm Gary C. Johnson. You've seen these billboards and ads that say size matters. I agree. The size that matters is the size of the results the law firm gets for their clients. We have several multi-million-dollar verdicts here in Kentucky. In fact, our firm owns the record for the single largest personal injury verdict in the state of Kentucky. That's the size that matters to you. In Kentucky, give our firm the call.